Good evening, guys. I'm Chris, and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Just had this Top Hat Club Deluxe dropped in for repair. Well, not really repair as such. It's an import model from North America, so it's currently 120 volt. And the customer would like it converting to 240 volt, which I was hoping could be done just by using. I was hoping the power transformer had a 240 volt tap on it. Unfortunately, it doesn't, so it's going to be a new mains transformer because he doesn't want to use a step down transformer with it. Okay, fair enough, not a problem. Now, I have not seen a Top Hat amp in here for, I don't know, maybe 8 years. The last one I had in was a Exemplador, I think is the model. So I don't know much about them other than I know they are an American boutique brand, and I'm not sure if this is right, so please let me know in the comments down below, but I think it's a lot of the old Matchless employees that were working there and wiring these up. So I don't know if that's true, that's just something I've heard. So yeah, really interesting though. So this is the Club Deluxe, which I think is the sister amp of the Club Royale, which is a EL84 amp, but this one's got 6v6s. I don't know if there's any other differences, I don't know much about them, but we will find out together. So with the rear panel removed from the amplifier, we can see this is a 2x12 combo loaded with Celestion G12H 70th anniversary speakers. Although why this one is gold and this one is more bronzy silver, I don't know. First thing that I notice, obviously there's no circuit board, it's all done on tag strip. But unlike car amplifiers, this seems to be a much more logical layout. Pretty standard configuration. Power section on the left, preamp section on the right, components in the middle with wires going to and from sockets and pots. So it shouldn't be too difficult to work on this one. What have we got on top? So we've got two inputs, probably a high and low. Yep. We've got a volume, got a bright switch, treble middle bass, and we've got a master and a cut control, which indicates this may be a Voxy style circuit. On, off and standby. Relatively simple. Club Deluxe. Okay. Looks like we've got 3 preamp valves. I don't know why these shields have got these windows cut out. I've never seen that before. How is that working as a Faraday cage if it's got windows cut out? 6v6s, it's got damper rings on. No rectifier valve, very interesting. Okay. It looks like we've got an extra switch on the bottom here, so can we get angled up enough to see? Looks like we've got a soft, normal switch, and we've got a switch here. Is that... What are you doing? An unlabeled switch on the bottom. Is switching the live and the neutral? We have to work that one out. Very strange. Anyway, spare fuses on the inside, nice touch. And here's the build label. So, Club Deluxe. This is American, so May the 8th, 2000. So 24 years old now, this amp. Wow. And it looks, I'll be honest with you, it looks, brand new. It looks the day it was built. Fantastic condition. Really nice. So anyway, nice Sprague electrolytics. Rectifier circuit at the top there. Very cool. Right, okay. Hang on, what we got here? Is that the fan? Fan. Right, so what have we got to do? Okay, so we've got to replace this power transformer. And so the first thing we need to know is work out what specs it is. So we've got our primary here on this side, and we've got our secondary windings here. And the secondary windings, the green will be our heaters, and the red will be our high voltage. The heaters have got the centre tap, that green with yellow stripe, but I don't see a centre tap on the high voltage winding. So is that a bridge rectifier? Yes, it looks like it. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to measure the high voltage winding. Obviously the heaters are going to be 6 volts, 6.3 volts. We need to measure the high voltage winding, see what it's putting out. And then we need to work out how much heater current we need. And then we can look at what type of transformer we need to get. Obviously, being a drop-through transformer, we need to find one that's going to fit in that hole. So I think the best course of action now is to pull the chassis, get it on the bench, and start to take some measurements. Right then, Q&A time. It's been going on for weeks, this app now, but I'm almost done with it. I'm just trying to make it extra special. So, yeah, anyway, nearly done. Right, Q&A. Lots of good questions this week. I've picked 3 or 4. So sorry if your question didn't get answered, but, you know, I can't have these videos going on for too long. First one was, when is my live streaming going to recommence? Bad news on the live streaming. So it's all down to my internet connection here at the farm. There is no fibre broadband here. So all of the internet has to be beamed in from the sky. And there are 2 options. There's a company called... 3 options actually, sorry. There's a company called Wurzel who who beam it in from an airfield just over the road there. They are incredibly expensive. There's British Telecom, BT. Now, they don't have a fibre line, but they do have a line that comes in here, but it's really, really slow and also incredibly expensive. The other option, of course, is Starlink, which is what I've got here on the roof of the workshop. Now, Starlink is great because, yes, it's not the cheapest, but it's cheaper than the other 2. You get incredible download speeds that seem to be really, really reliable, but my upload speed, not good. I was hoping that it would be good enough to support 1080p high def live streaming, but from our experimenting before, sometimes it was good, but we just had too many dropouts, and it was always the audio that dropped out first, so it just go quiet. You just see me working on an amp, and then the video would cut out, and it'd all kick back in, and it'd all be jumbled and garbage, and it just wasn't good enough. So for the time being, at least, I can't do anything with the live streaming as much as I would like to. It's disappointing because at home I've got incredibly fast fibre broadband. I could live stream in 4K with 0 issues at home, but here at the shop, just no good. The old chicken shed just can't handle it. So sorry about that. I would do it if I could because I do enjoy it, but you'll just have to stick to these videos instead. Top hat is on the bench and is running. Here is our output sine wave. We've currently got 9.6 volts into 8 ohms, which puts us around 12 watts, which is about right for these, I would have thought. So that's all good. Right, let's have a look at some of the measurements I've taken. So our B plus coming directly off the bridge rectifier is 332 volts. Okay. Now, our transformer, the specs that we need for our replacement transformer, we've our high voltage winding, red to red, is 260 volts. There's no centre tap on there, so it's quite a low winding. Our heater winding is centre tapped, so we've got It's a 6.3 volt winding. It's 3.5, 0, 3.5 each side. And if we calculate the heater current that we need, we've got two 6v6s at 45, at 0.45 amps each, 0.9 amps. And we've got six 12AX7 triodes at 0.15 amps each, gives us 0.9, that's 1.8, so we probably need, for headroom, a 2 amp winding. What about the high voltage winding though? Well, we need to know how much high voltage current is being drawn through the amplifier. Lots of ways to do that, but here is the B plus rail. I haven't drawn all of it, but just the initial stages up to the reservoir cap. So here's our bridge rectifier. We've got our red and a red coming in, and at this point here we've got 332 volts DC. Okay, we've got a bleed resistor to ground to drain the rail when the system's switched off. 430k, which is an odd value, but there you go. And then we've got an initial dropper stage here, 56 ohm 10 watt resistor. Okay, then we've got a 360 ohm 15 watt resistor with our soft normal bypass switch. So when the switch is closed, that resistor is out of circuit. Our voltage bypasses that. When the switch is open, all our voltage has to go through the resistor. We drop some, and that's how you're getting a lower B plus at your reservoir cap. Easiest way to work out what the B plus rail needs is we just measure across this 56 ohm resistor here, because all of our current flows through that resistor. So the voltage drop across it is 4.34 volts divided by 56 ohms. Remember, current is voltage divided by resistance. Voltage divided by resistance gives us 0.0775 amps or 77.5 milliamps. So I would argue we probably need a 90 milliamp winding. So 260 volts at 90 milliamps. So that's the spec of transformer I need. Now the customer has asked that we keep this flexible. So rather than getting a transformer that's just got a 240 volt primary tap on it, you see this one's just got a 120 volt, let's get a multi-tap primary. So in the future, if he does move abroad or move around, we can just simply connect up the right wire internally and the amp will be good to go. Obviously change the fuse as appropriate. So we're going to see if we can get a transformer that's got a 120, a 220, a 230 and a 240 volt tap, and then we can just use whichever one is appropriate and tie off whichever ones we don't need. So now we know the electronic spec of the transformer, we need to know what physical size it is, and that looks to me like the same size as something like a Princeton reverb transformer or something similar. So we'll get the measurements out and we'll see what we can find online, see if we can work out the mounting spacing, sorry. And either hopefully we can buy a transformer off the shelf or we're going to have to get one wound. Had a great question about the pros and cons of turrets versus eyelets. Is there a difference? Is there a benefit to using one over the other, or is it just down to preference? In real life, no, there's no real difference. It's just down to the builder's preference and build style and what works for them. I mean, you could also add tag strip into that question. Why use a board altogether? And like the that top hat amp, why don't you just use turrets? Well, tag strip. It's just down to builder's preference. The reason I use eyelets over turrets is because often with a turret you've got a solder joint at the top. Pretend this is a turret. No, pretend this is a turret. You've got your components that go into the top, and you've got obviously they're soldered there, and you might have wires wrapped around the bottom of the turret or even into the bottom hole. But quite often it's easy if you solder at the top and you've already soldered something in the bottom, it's easy to get a cold joint at the bottom, because the heat will travel down the turret and it might not fully melt the solder at the bottom to get, fully reflow it. So it might only partially do that and give you a cold joint. Now, how often does that happen? Quite rarely, I'll be honest. It's not an everyday occurrence, but it has happened to me in the past, and it happened enough times that I thought, no, I don't like these. Eyelets are so short, relatively, that whenever you reflow a joint, all of it melts, and you never get a cold joint that way. Or it's so rare, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times it's happened in the last 10, 12 years. So yeah, that's my thing, is that it's easier to get a cold joint with turrets than it is with eyelets, but it's still quite rare. Another really cool amp dropped through the door this afternoon. This is a Weem Dominator. Now, the eagle-eyed of you might think it's a Mark III, but no. Can you see that silver coat, the silver dust cap through there? That means it is a bass Mark I. To be honest with you, apart from the speaker, there's no difference. So the circuit is exactly the same. The Mark III was a 1x12. The Power Musette Mark II was a 1x12, but it had the whizzer cone, so it's more for keyboard use. And the Dominator Bass Mark I was a 1x15, which is what this is. So, really cool story on this. The owners had it for absolute decades. He said it went wrong, started to sound awful, and then it got put away in storage, he thinks, in 1985. So how many years ago is that? 40, 50 years, something like that, 49 years. So yeah, so it probably did. I mean, I don't know when these came out, 60s, 70s. So, it could have done 15, 20 years service before it started playing up, and now it's been sat for all this time. Anyway, it's in reasonable condition. It's not too bad. We have seen worse. Unfortunately, the chassis is caved in there a little bit, and the front grille cloth is very loose. So, not sure what we're going to do about that. But apart from that, it's just a simple 2-channel amplifier. Treble boost switch on channel 1. You've got, I assume it's treble middle bass. And then the same on channel 2. So maybe it's volume treble bass. Actually, let's look at the schematics, see if we can work it out. Here's your tone stack, treble, bass, fixed mid, there you go. And then volume, yeah. Just treble and bass on each channel, there you go. Let's spin this around and have a look. I do love the Weem logo. I always think that looks great. Let's spin it around and show you the rear. There it is, Weem, serial number Charlie Whiskey 73167, Watkins Electric Music Limited. Disconnect main supply before exposing the chassis. Well, yeah, good idea. Right, so first thing I notice is somebody's done some wiring mods here. That's the original speaker connection. And someone's added joint speaker outs there onto whether that, so you can run the speaker, maybe so you could run it as an extension cab, I don't know. We'd have to work out how that's done. He wants all that removing anyway. Mains cable. Actually, you've got 2 cables there. Mains cable, no plug. Here's the plug. So that's all done, knackered. And that's inside. So, what are we doing to this? We're not doing a full restoration. We're simply doing a resurrection. So he wants me to get this thing playable so he could go out and use it and gig it. Budget is somewhat tight on this, so we're not going to go crazy. But what I need to do is pull this back panel off. We need to pull the chassis out, give it a good visual inspection, because not only has this not been fired up for a long time, it was faulty before it was put away, so we've got that to deal with as well. We're going to put the speaker connection back to stock. As you notice, it's the Celestion G15M 50 watt 16 ohm speaker, low resonance, so it's the bass resonance of 55 hertz. We'll put it all back to stock. Maybe we'll put a new mains cable on rather than just fixing the plug. Fire it up and see what we get. Okay, this next question, I'm going to try and be really precise in what I say and how I say it, because it is a complex subject, but I think it is one that we all need to have a conversation about. And it's about people wanting me and other amp techs on YouTube to comment on other people's amplifiers. You know, what do we think of them? Are they well built? Are they badly built? Do we think they're any good or not? Now, to be honest with you, deep down inside, that's what I think is wrong about this industry. There are a lot of people out there who are trying to tear down others to make themselves look better. You know, that guy's awful. That guy doesn't do a good job. This thing's rubbish. Look how good I am, right? And we see that a lot. Now, it's a difficult one because when it comes to repair videos, and, you know, if you're a YouTube tech that just does the repair side of things, well, of course you've got to comment on something that's not good. It's part of the game, right? But I think there is a difference between saying this amp could be built better, or, you know, there are different ways of doing things, than there are just going full bore saying that's crap and terrible. Now, I'll put my hands up. I've done it in the past too, but it's never quite sat right with me. Now, if I only built amplifiers and I never touched any repairs, it wouldn't be an issue because I wouldn't ever be commenting on other people's amplifiers. I'd only ever be promoting my own stuff and saying, this is what I do, this is how I do it, come and have a look. And if you like that, please buy. But because I do the repairs and the servicing as well, often if one's faulty, you know, by definition, if it's coming for repair, it's faulty. I have to, you know, I'll show you what's wrong with it, why it's wrong, what can be done to fix it, you know, what the repair is. And I might even talk about the differences between the legal requirements of the UK/European market for new builds versus, you know, you guys over in America who the code is nowhere near as strict as ours. You know, we've got incredibly strict regulations that we have to comply with for if you want to manufacture and sell on a commercial basis a guitar amplifier. So coming back to the whole, you know, oh Chris, what do you think of X brand of amplifier? Are they built any good? Well, I'm always quite uncomfortable saying whether I think someone's done a good job or not, or whether I think an amplifier is good or not. I'm always happy to give constructive criticism, of course, and say, you know, they've done it this way. There are 2 or 3 different ways to achieve the same result or better, and here's some things that I might recommend. But also I see things as well that where I go, that's a better solution. I'm going to use that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we all need to get away from the trying to, you know, as I said, tearing other people's stuff down to make ourselves look better. It's not right. It's not the best way of going about things. But as I've always said, if I do see something that's dangerous or poorly done or illegal, I have a duty to tell you, just as I would tell the customer that walks in the front door, if their amplifier is unsafe and this thing is a death trap, I have a duty to tell you. And so that's my promise to you. So moving forward, that's going to be my approach. If another another manufacturer's amplifier comes in, I will show you what it's like. I will point out things that are good. I will always tell you if there's something that's dangerous or not right with it, but I'm certainly not going to try and bring down that person, because, you know, an amplifier built for one market could be, you know, different to one built for ours. So there you go. I hope that makes sense. I hope I haven't just waffled on for the last 5 minutes, but I think that was something we all need to improve on as an industry. Let me know your comments down below. What do you think? Okay, rear panel removed, and we can see they've added this very simple extension board here with 2 cliff jack sockets just wired directly to the speaker. So I suspect they were just using this as an extension cabinet for bass or guitar or whatever, and left everything else as it was. So we need to, yeah, well, get this chassis out. Actually, let's have a look through while we're here. Power transformer, reservoir cap. You see that bulge in the middle? So that's going to need doing. The rectifier diodes are directly on the cap. Got a big red electrolytic on the board there. 2 Mullard EL84s. There's another Mullard ECC83 in there. So I wonder if these are Mullards as well behind these shields. Let's get the chassis pulled and we'll have a look. Output transformer as well. But yeah, really, really cool. I also had a really, really good question on mains cables and the laws and best practices around the mains inputs, mains cables, whether you use an IEC socket or a captive cable. What are the laws and regulations and all the things surrounding that? Now, it's actually quite an in-depth subject. So what I'm going to do is either a separate video on that, or I will dedicate a chunk of an upcoming video just to that subject, because the laws and regulations around mains cables are very strict, and you have to not only understand the law, but you have to understand the intention behind the law, to how all that works. You have to understand what are the requirements for the market in which the amplifier is being sold. For example, in the UK and the EU, the laws are very different to North America, to Australia, to Japan, for example. So you have to make sure everything complies. And also there are not only, the minimum requirements, but there are standards above that as well. And how do you meet and exceed those standards? So we will do a whole video on that. I think it'd be really interesting. A really mundane subject that's full of detail. And wow, I never thought of it. I didn't know that. So yeah, we've got to really think. Sorry, when you're building an amplifier, you've got to really pay attention to the main side of the amplifier and how all of that works. So we'll do a video on that. It'll be really interesting. Here we go then. Okay, so visual inspection. She dusty. She very dusty. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with our mains cable. So this chassis sits on this shelf, so I can actually remove it from there, which I'm going to do later on. Got 2 bolts each side. I've got mains cable here. This is our speaker cable, which we can see runs underneath and then pops out to our output transformer. But we've got this other wire here, which is for a foot switch, I think. But I can't see wherever this sits. in the circuit. But if we trace it through, we come up to, zoom you in. We come up to this capacitor here, which is the bright capacitor, which seems to have been lifted off the circuit and wired into the foot switch instead. So rather than the bright switch on the front bringing it in and out of circuit, someone who's modded it put it on a foot switch, which I find really interesting. So we'll put all that back, put it back to stock. Best thing you can always do is demod an amplifier. So, and then we need to work out what was going on with it. So, rule of thumb, as I've said many times before, is you're always trying to protect the transformers. Okay, so considering we know that this amplifier was faulty in the past, and obviously it's not in a great condition now, I'm not going to power this up even through the current limiting bulb. Just not going to risk it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thoroughly clean the chassis, dedust it, undust it. Anyway, do that. I need to replace this cap can because it's bulging. We'll do this one as well. There's an electrolytic here. Probably the bypass cap for the output valves. And give the pots and all the sockets and switches a good clean and a sort out. Only then will I put a new mains cable on it, check the speaker connections, and then we can fire it up. But yeah, not even going to risk it. Not even going to risk it. Weem Dominator. So it's a surprisingly simple circuit. Got your two channels come in, they mix. So one channel goes into one side of the phase inverter and the other comes into the other side. So both channels mix at the phase inverter. And then you've got your output into your EL84s, 15 watt output. It's very simple, not much to do, not much going on with these actually. I'm not sure how much the circuit changed in the Mark II and the Mark III. Time for some research, but yeah, really cool, right? No markings on the transformers, so I'll have to see if I can work out who made these. But yeah, really cool. I think they're late 60s. I'll double check. But yeah, Weem Dominator base Mark I. Final question about soldering and solder fumes, and do I use an extractor or what do I use? Well, here in the UK and Europe, for the manufacture of new amplifiers, we can't use leaded solder. We have to use a lead-free solder, and I use a very expensive SN100 Plus solder for that. On top of that, the flux that's inside the solder has to be compliant too, so that can't contain any nasty chemicals and things like that. So I personally have no problem breathing in solder fumes because I know it's completely unharmful. I'm not going to suffer. I'm not going to have any issues. However, you'll notice I do work by a window, and if if it's not a cold day, I will have the window open. And I also, over on the other bench where I do my boards and things, I do have an extractor fan over there, because sometimes, even though it's okay for me to breathe, you just don't want it wafting in your face all the time. So that's what I do. Now, if I'm working on a vintage amplifier or a modern amplifier that has been built with leaded solder, I am allowed to use leaded solder to repair and service that piece of gear. In that situation, yes, I always use an extractor, or I always have a window open for those soldered joints, right? Because that solder is not good for your health. You've got to be careful, and you've got to pay real attention. You know, if you're building one project at home for a hobby, you'll probably be okay. But me, I'm here, you know, I'm doing 8-9 hours a day, lots of solder fumes. You have to be careful, you have to look after yourself, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, there we go. I use ventilation and extraction as required. We've had like 3 days of nice weather and it's raining again. It's just ridiculous. Weather update. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. So 2 really cool amplifiers in for service, and I've actually got 2 more in the queue, which I'm going to show you next time. A couple of updates for you. The output transformer for the 1966 Princeton Reverb, customer decided he wants that to be rewound, so that's gone off to be done. Good news. The top hat power transformer, I couldn't find anything available on the aftermarket that fit the specs. So we've, mainly because it's such a low voltage on the HT winding. So Modulus is very kindly offered to wind one for us. Good news, with a multi-tap primary as well. So yeah, really looking forward to that. I've got some caps on order for the Weem. And I'm about to start looking into the issues with the Hot Rod DeVille from last Sunday's video. So hopefully you'll see something on Sunday's video on that. But yeah, there we go. Here we go. Please give this video a thumbs up, comments down below, notification bell. Please hit subscribe, join the channel like these guys have, and I shall catch you all at the next one.